Welcome to the equityrich show. Real talk.
We were having this conversation after graduation. I'm like, what are you going to do with your life? What's your plan? What's your goal? He was like, I think I'm going to go apply for a job as a correctional officer. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a minute. So you avoided jail, all the gang stuff and the activities in and out of jail. You didn't get anything serious on you. And that's the place you didn't want to go. And your motivation was to build a life and all that kind of stuff to stay away from that kind of place. And then you're going to purposely go get a job where you have to go to jail every day?
The little things in life. You're like, man, if I could just go home and get a beer and a hamburger and life is good.
I would say that it is something about human nature. The other option we didn't choose or the other path we didn't take.
So we got another one here with Nigel Johnson, fourth generation real estate investor, author of How to Buy Your First Home in Kansas City, certified affordable housing provider. Did I miss anything?
I think you pretty much got it. And then we got Josh Kimbrough, second generation banker, certified family office professional. And let me see, what else am I missing?
Private lender.
Private lender.
Also wellness, I would say a master mind coach, mind development, what I call mental enhancement. Chapter leader of the Monroe Institute. I don't tell people often. So today we'll have one of those conversations and call it Behind the Minds.
Okay.
So this is what we call a mind state, where we're diving deep into the mechanisms and the compasses that drive high-level generational legacy, right? Shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve in just 3 generations, right? That's the number one dilemma of family office. How do you transfer that wealth across generations? It's not about your age. It's about the family compass and your moral compass driving your family compass. So with that being said, the discussion here is centered around the mindset of enjoying life and being able to appreciate life versus ambitions, right? And we brought up the notion or the example of being a CEO and understanding the psyche behind that and effectively the advantages and disadvantages. So I'll let you talk a little bit about that, Nigel, and elaborate on some of your thoughts.
Yeah. I grew up in my household. My mother married my stepfather probably when I was about 5 years old. And for about 13 years, he was a correctional officer. So I would see him get dressed every day, put on his uniform, he would head off to work, and he would come back. So he had some advanced people skills. He knew how to basically problem solve. He knew how to help people feel heard, and he knew how to just show up to people. And I believe he transferred those skills or took them with him when he went to work. And I remember when I was a younger child and I would see him go and I'd watch the TV show. I listened how the culture somehow vilified a lot of times law enforcement and people in similar types of capacities. So I would be confused or conflicted because here was a very positive example that I had who every day provided for me, looked out for me, helped me and my family. And he didn't fit how the culture expected me to look at him. And I would be scared for him sometimes. I'm like, okay, if he's going in this environment, what if somebody sees him and feels some kind of way in public and something happens or whatever? And there was any times where we would cross paths with people. I'd be with them and we would cross paths with people that were locked up, that he was there and he had to during his job. And many of those people were just overjoyed with seeing him, just so happy to see him. Like, oh my God, man, I'm so happy. Thank you so much. Much respect. I appreciate all you've done for me, all the life you've spoken to me, all the wisdom you shared. Just treat me like a human. And surely, even as a young person, I could read between the lines and I could tell that the joy that they had for him, it wasn't something universal, right? They didn't feel that way about every correctional officer. Right? Not every one of them treated them as human. Not every one of them treated them like they had a voice, they had a story that they were worth listening to and hearing and didn't treat them as human even sometimes, right? When I got off to college, my roommate in college, he majored in criminal justice. And I remember as we approached graduation, of course, the natural conversation happened. Hey, what kind of job are you going to go get? What are you going to go do? What's your plan for the future? Now, understand that we went to a HBCU, and our freshman year, there was probably 35, 40 of us in our friend group, right? All incoming freshmen, all with high hopes and ambitions and ideas of what we're going to do with life and what this college experience is going to do for us, or doors going to open for us. And by graduation, that 40 pack of friends turned into 2 people walking across the stage, me and my roommate. Okay. So we both often contrasted our upbringing and how far we came, and through poverty and through living in the hood and all the examples of loved ones murdered and being locked up and just all the traps and stuff that come with growing up in poverty. And although I'm from Kansas City, he's from St. Louis, our stories were very similar. One difference was that in his early age, he got heavily involved in gang life and heavily involved in it, to where later on his mother ended up joining the military, right? And my roommate was fortunate in that by his mother joining the military and attaining a certain rank. And in fact, she acquired a couple master's degrees before she joined the military. So that allowed her to join at a much higher rank and a much higher level as an officer due to her educational accomplishments, right? And because of this, she was able to pull him out of the hood, and they moved to Hawaii for a year before he left for college. So he was able to get extracted from that risky environment, moved to Hawaii for a year, where he was able to find himself during those formative years. And then a year later, he went on to college where he met me, right? So I saw all of this growth, all of this change. I saw the person he had become. And we were having this conversation after graduation. I'm like, what are you going to do with your life? What's your plan? What's your goal? He was like, I think I'm going to go apply for a job as a correctional officer. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a minute. So you avoided jail, all the gang stuff and the activities in and out of jail. You didn't get anything serious on you. And that's the place you didn't want to go. And your motivation was to build a life and all that kind of stuff, to stay away from that kind of place. And then you're going to purposely go get a job where you have to go to jail every day? Dude, are you sure that's what you want to do? He's like, you know what? Now that you mention it, I don't want to go to jail every day, even if they're paying me for it. That was a turning point. And me and my college roommate, it was many ways where I would say that we were able to add value and contribution to each other. I have a saying, which is iron sharpens iron, steel sharpens steel, and men sharpen men. For that to occur, you have to be receptive to the input and impact from those who care about you. So Josh and I, we were speaking about this story here. And I like how Josh put it. He said, we like floors, but we don't like ceilings. And I took that to mean some of the decisions that we make as far as our lives go, it might give us a floor of a certain kind of lifestyle, a certain kind of income, certain types of benefits, a certain type of status. But we often don't think about the feelings that these decisions also come with, right? It capture growth potential. It captures your environment of who are the impactful people that you're going to be able to build relationships with on a daily basis. Who is going to be able to pour into you? If you're surrounded by people who don't have any, if they can't contribute to you in a meaningful way, then, it's going to be it's a lot of one-sided relationships, right? So when you fall, when you stumble, when life goes through its cycles and it's your turn to hit some of the valleys, right? Then who's going to be there for you? You want to build those kind of relationships before you need them. You want to buy the homeowner's insurance before the house burns down. Hopefully it don't burn down, but if it does, you want to have the homeowner's insurance in place already. You need those relationships before you need them. I thought that was a pretty powerful lesson.
Yeah, most definitely. And also, what we were discussing was the limits, the boundaries, and the contrast between that methodology. And effectively in life, there is no wrong answers. It just means what you've chosen in life. But of course, like from our perspective, we tend to see from a lens of the high growth, right? Being deep in the finance space, we like to live in the space of like high numbers and high ambitions, right? But being through some of those situations myself, I do see the other side of the perspective, and I know it's a thin line between those perspectives and what is a happy medium. So when you're on that side, again, the advantages is that you begin to appreciate life, right? The little things in life. You're like, man, if I could just go home and get a beer and a hamburger and life is good. And that's a great perspective to have. And I love that in people, right? But where is the line where that means is now I have lack of motivation and lack of aspiration and lack of ambition? Right, on the inverse side, having these high ambitions, often you tend to have that winner mentality where even the smallest, most minute amounts of losses is detrimental. And everybody's, dude, man, look at the stuff you've accomplished. And I'm like, no, man, look at the stuff that I'm not sleeping at night because of the small little tweaks I could have done that would have positioned me in a lot better situation, made me more money, et cetera, et cetera. What's the balance between that? As I think about that, just putting myself mentally in a CEO role, I feel myself like slipping into that lifestyle, even as I just think about it, like, oh man, what's wrong about being able to appreciate life and going back to a more simplistic life? And when I'm like, stop it, my mind's just because I like being me, but what is wrong with that? And people who are biblical or spiritual say you should be complacent and et cetera, et cetera. But then yet also Jesus walked on water. So what's the balance there, and how do we navigate that?
That's real. And I think it's something to be said about human nature in a sense that how they say the grass is greener or something like that. I would say that it is something about human nature where we kind of pedestalize the other option we didn't choose or the other path we didn't take. One thing that I get a lot of enjoyment out of in my travels is when I'm riding and it's a lot of undeveloped land and I see that one house way off in the distance surrounded by all this farmland, and maybe they got some cows and some fenced in land. And you just imagine, oh man, the simple life and just the simple things before all of this stress and pressure and modern technology. Some of it's convenience, but of course it comes with costs and it comes with risk and it comes with all this stuff. And something about human nature makes me say, man, I really desire that. Maybe I want that one day. Sometimes I want to just go, if I had a place like that, I'd go and just disappear for a while. And as much as that's like the fantasy, I know that the reality is if that was my everyday rather than my escape, that would become a sort of prison, right? It will become a prison. So in life, we have to be careful of what we ask for. Because I learned early on that you got to be careful what you ask for because you just might get it. No, it's greener where you water it.
Yeah, true.
It's greener where you water it. I think there is room in the world to where we can see the beauty and find appreciation in the different outcomes, in the different lifestyles, in the different levels of ambition. But at the end of the day, we have to feel comfortable with ourselves. And as much as, like you, I wake up thinking about the ones that got away or what I missed, and do I spend as much effort, attention on the things I got right? Probably not. The accomplishments I made? Probably not, because I'm always going towards the next goal, the bigger benchmark, the greater milestone, the whatever it is. And I recognize that's part of the gift is the curse, right? You can't have only one side of the coin, right? As I continue to accumulate birthdays and hopefully some wisdom along with that, right? I've learned to be okay with that. And I've learned to give myself some grace. And I've learned to give myself allow myself to be human. Recognize that, you know what? Was I perfect? No, I did not walk on water. However, I did do something right. And there's still tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? To try again.
Cool. I think that's a great point to stop. So what are some final thoughts you would say?
I would say, know thyself. Start with knowing yourself, because what's perfect or what's right for somebody else could be completely wrong. If you know yourself and you know your gifts and you know your passion, and you know your motivation, and you know your purpose, then a great majority of the problem is solved. Because now you just got to apply yourself. But if your compass is broke, if your compass is broken and you don't know what direction north is, maybe when you're closing out, you could talk about that warehouse example you gave me yesterday. But if your compass is broke, then it's going to be much harder to find your way home.
Well, most definitely. Two thoughts, actually. One of them I think I heard from Tony Robbins. He said, really, the hero's journey and the goal in life is to make incremental progress, right? It doesn't matter how fast that progress is, right? For some people who might be more ambitious, it might look a little bit different, right? But really, he said the key to life is progress, right? As long as you're making progress, regardless of like how fast that progress is or comparison, which is relative to somebody else's progress, as long as you're continuing to make progress, you're happy. So that talks to know yourself, like you mentioned. And the second thought, since you brought it up, is definitely the warehouse theory, right? So I like to think of life as like an endless warehouse, pitch black with infinite rooms, right? And our goal is to simply make it to the next room, right? And each room is like metaphorical for the different challenges that you may encounter in life, right? So either your goal is to find a light switch within that room, which is metaphorical for understanding the rules of that particular challenge or particular room with the next room. So your goal is to either learn the rules of this arena or this particular challenge that you're facing, or make it to the next room or next challenge and get out of that situation. Right? What happens when you walk in pitch black? You start to walk straight, and then after a while, you start to veer a little bit, right? You can't really walk straight in the dark, so you're veering a little bit. Then after a while, that veering may even turn into walking in the opposite direction of what you were going, right? So one of the key characteristics that I've learned that's saying to me is knowing that all progress is a good progress, right? So you might be spinning your wheels. What you thought may be progressing you ahead or moving forward, very counterintuitive. You might be actually moving backwards. Sometimes you have to do what you thought was moving backwards and taking a couple steps backwards just to stop and gain perspective. Myron Golden says gain some leverage. Stop what's not already working. More value does not mean better, right? So more crap on a stick does not mean that you're delivering higher levels of value, right? So sometimes you need to stop doing what's already not working, find some leverage, and then, which may sound counterintuitive, it might feel like you're walking backwards, right? Understand where you're at, and then move forward, right? Oftentimes I find that's the case, and I'm literally backing up, and then all of a sudden I hit the next wall, and I realize I'm at the end of the room. Then turn around, go into that room, and then repeat the same process. Yeah, that's been really, I would say, life-changing for me, being humble enough to realize that what the direction in life might be heading might not be the right one. So knowing yourself is very important, and having that compass and knowing what that compass is for yourself and what that means, right?